Hey, this is Nicky G and welcome to Better Commander. Today we're talking about Mahadi Emporium Master and going deep with a $50 commander deck. Mahadi Emporium Master caught my eye during the spoiler season for Commander Legends 2 Battle for Baldur's Gate. He's a cat. He's also a devil. Apparently he's a capitalist. What you buying? What you selling? I immediately earmarked the card for later exploration as he's got a pretty powerful ability that has some really cool build around synergies. Very elegant card. Mahadi Emporium Master is 1 black and a red for a legendary creature. It's a cat devil 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. That's it. So each creature on our side of the battlefield, on our opponent's side of the battlefield. He also says, "Welcome to the Wandering Emporium. Feel free to browse the bazaar. We have everything a lost soul could want, need, or afford." This poor guy put his hands on backwards, which is unfortunate. He may have some undiagnosed birth defect. Don't make fun. For me, building a deck is like making soup. Maybe that's why they call it brewing, I guess. So just like making soup, you can do everything from Campbell's in a can to expensive shark fin chowder. I found brewing with a budget intellectually stimulating and set myself a $50 budget for this deck. So Mahadi wants creatures to die, but only pays off at the end step, so we're planning 1 turn ahead, which can be difficult. The general idea is to build a huge board state of small creatures and tokens and creatures and mercilessly sacrifice them for incremental value. I'm not going to go over every card because we all have places to be, you know. I'd like to highlight a few of the cards that you may not see in other aristocrat decks, but have particular synergy here. Disciple of the Vault is 1 black mana for a creature. It's a human cleric 1/1. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. He stands in the shadow of his Lord Geth, drinking in the dark energies of the vault. I think this guy's drinking Mountain Dew. He's draining your opponents for every treasure that gets sacked, and that's pretty good in this deck for 1 mana. We got Erebos, the Bleak-Hearted, 3 and a black for a legendary enchantment creature. It's a god. It's a 5/6 with indestructible. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. Whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. Okay, right there we're going to be drawing a lot of cards and sacrificing a lot of life. So you also have 1 and a black, sacrifice another creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until the end of turn. Okay, so this is the bad Erebos, but creatures are going to be dying left and right. We can trade life for cards. Also, he's a sack outlet that can help us control the board. Grim Haruspex is 2 and a black for a creature. It's a human wizard 3/2. It has morph, whatever. So whenever a non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. This guy's kind of standing in for a few creatures that draw cards when non-token creatures die. So Midnight Reaper, Harvester of Souls, you just want plenty of these effects. This deck tends to throw a lot of creatures onto the board at once, so it's great to feed the sacrifice mill more cards. Ingenious Artillerist, very interesting card. 2 and a red for a creature. It's a human artificer 3/1. Whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, Ingenious Artillerist deals that much damage to each opponent. Sure, you can help me calibrate the aiming mechanism. Stand over there. So the guy's basically threatening to shoot you. I like his style. There are turns when we're sacrificing 8 tokens or whatever, so this little cheeky fella will damage the table so we can eventually win. Loyal Apprentice, look at this little flapper. 1 and a red for a creature. It's a human artificer 2/1 with haste. It has Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That token gains haste until the end of turn. So she also says those with knowledge are wise to listen to those with imagination. What the heck are you talking about? Flying blockers that pop out on every turn should be respected. This thing's a cool little card. And though this little lady is kind of farting around with Thopters, she's earned my respect. Marionette Master, 4 black for a creature. It's a human artificer. It's a 1/3 with Fabricate 3. So when it enters the battlefield, you can put 3+1/+1 counters on it, or you can create 3 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens. Whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, the target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So this is 4 damage for every treasure sacrificed. This can finish opponents quite quickly, especially if you're putting 8 treasures onto the board in 1 big turn. This guy, Havoc Jester, is 4 and a red for a creature. It's a devil 5/5. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, Havoc Jester deals 1 damage to any target. To the Rakdos, Screams of Delight and Screams of Terror are 1 and the same. So, okay, it's a devil wearing a devil mask. Anyway, this is particularly good in this deck. So it works off our treasures and our creatures and our tokens and everything. Impulsive Pilferer, so this is 1 red mana for a creature. It's a goblin pirate. It's a 1/1. Whenever it dies, create a treasure token. So it also has Encore for 3 and a red. So you exile it from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Is this Dockside Extortionist? No, this is his disappointing older brother who's extorting a bird. Clearly didn't read the script. Nadier's Nightblade, 2 and a black for a creature. It's an elf warrior 1/3. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Checking around every corner doesn't help if you forget to look up. It's an elf in a tree, get it? This is a very unique effect not seen anywhere else and triggers off our treasures, our goblin tokens, off of everything. Reckless Fireweaver, it's 1 and a red for a creature. It's a human artificer, 1/3. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. Architects find inspiration in the dragon's beauty of form, while artificers are influenced by the function of its fire. What? What is this guy saying? He thinks he's a dragon or something. He's dang furry out there. Anywho, this guy kicks butt when we start making treasures. Skullport Merchant is 2 and a black for a creature. It's a dwarf citizen, 1/4. When Skullport Merchant enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. It also has 1 and a black. Sacrifice another creature or a treasure, draw a card. And she says, buy something or get out. So this makes treasure. This refills our hands when we start running out of steam. Plus the art looks like every ex-girlfriend I've ever had. I'm in it to win it. If this is a Tinder profile, I'm swiping right. Priest of Forgotten Gods is 1 and a black for a creature. Human Cleric, it's a 1/2. Tap, sacrifice 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature. You add black and draw a card. And she says, the Orzhov are not the only religious tradition on Ravnica, nor the oldest. Mahadi counts when our opponent's creatures die, when our creatures die, so this does so much work. So if you're sacrificing 2 creatures, all of your opponents are sacrificing a creature. That's 5 treasures at the end of turn. You get to make mana, you get to draw cards. This is a really great card in this deck. Witty Roastmaster is 2 and a red for a creature. Devil Citizen, it's a 3/2. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So I'm not 100% sold on this guy, but I'm willing to try it out. Soul Sisters are played in life gain decks, and this is basically the opposite. Hits every opponent. Agent of the Iron Throne. This is my new favorite aristocrat card. So it's 2 and a black for a legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So this is great. Triggers off creatures and treasures. The only danger is if somebody steals your commander and has an aristocrat's deck as well, but whatever. I also love this guy's puffy shirt. I'm getting one tailor-made as we speak. Plumb the Forbidden. I mentioned this in another one of my decks. So it's 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy this spell for each creature sacrificed this way. You draw a card and lose 1 life. So this can clear our whole board of expendable creatures and draw a whole slew of cards. This is one of the best cards in the deck. We also have smaller versions like Deadly Dispute, Village Rites. We need a high card velocity in this deck because we tend to vomit a lot of cards onto the battlefield at once. Call of the Death Dweller. This is my new favorite card that I've never put in a deck before. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards with total mana value, 3 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a death touch counter on either of them, then put a menace counter on either of them. This can get back our smaller weenies and is just a cool card in general. I don't really care about the counters because I'm probably going to be sacrificing them that same turn. Flesh Eater Imp. When I first saw this card, I thought it was a picture of me from elementary school. So this is 3 and a black for a creature, Phyrexian Imp. It's a 2/2 with flying and infect. Sacrifice a creature. That's it. No tapping, no activation cost. Flesh Eater Imp gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So if we can put this out there with 8 expendable creatures, we can take somebody out of the game. Are you going to win that way? Probably not. I don't know. But it's a free sack outlet that can certainly make things interesting, and it has built-in evasion. Threads of Sanity, 2 and a red for a sorcery. Return up to 1 target instant card and up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, then discard a card and exile Shreds of Sanity. This is a tricky card that can get us back our smaller draw spells or our bigger reanimator spells. I found it to be invaluable in playtesting. I put a ton of mental energy into this deck. I think what you have at the end of it is a elegant budget deck that can pump out 50 or more damage by turn 8. I couldn't stop goldfishing it and I started tracking all the damage. You have a lot of moving parts. You have drain effects, you have sacrifice outlets with a ton of draw and token producers. The net effect is a damaging board state with several small, seemingly innocuous threats that your opponents may be hesitant to waste removal on until it's too late. You've assembled a critical mass and they are all dead. It's a $50 deck that's powerful for the price and easily upgradable. Goldfish it, try it out. It's satisfying to see cards coming in, going out, getting sacrificed, causing damage, making tokens. You guys have fun out there, you sweet animals. This is going to be Nicky G from Better Commander, signing off.